Hey dudes, welcome back to another episode of our Rhomas Men's Team podcast. You are about to listen to one of our prior team meetings. If you ever want to join one of our live sessions that we have every Monday and Friday, head over to rhomas.com. That's RHOMAS.com and put your email in and we will send you a live link every time we record. We generally record on Mondays and Fridays. So if you ever want to be on the actual podcast, like we bring men up all the time to talk about their goals, talk about their obstacles, etc., head over to rhomas.com. And then also, if you want to help support the channel grow and also have access to exclusive content, book reviews, extra whiteboard sessions, etc., and some coaching sessions, head over to patreon.com and support us. We would love it. But if not, no biggie. We'll see you on the live sessions. Later, dudes. Enjoy this podcast.
What up? What's up, everybody?
What's up, dudes?
Chilling. What you up to, man?
Not much, man. I'm ready to get the week going. But I want to hear about your trip, man. How'd it go?
It was good, dude. It was it was exciting. It was cool to watch, like, people filming and then like doing a little bit of stand up underneath, like in that setting was kind of cool. Yeah, it was tight. The whole weekend was good. It was I'm just exhausted, like I was telling you before. It's like I'm tired. I'm usually in bed at like 9:30 p.m. every night, and those were pretty late nights. And then, like I was telling you, I got stuck at the airport for like 5.5 hours last night. Didn't get home till like 1. Had to finish my push-ups for the push-up challenge. Can't drop out, so banged them out. So it was pretty tight. But yeah,
nice,
it was.
Man.
The whole weekend was great. It went really well. But yeah, just kind of all I can do. I have so much stuff I want to do today, and it's like I can just sleep. I have to catch up on my sleep. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you look a little sleepy face, dude.
Very sleepy, dude. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
But,
oh man.
I was reading the whole way out. Well, how are you doing first before I start to autistic rant about what I'm reading?
do your autistic rant, dude.
So I've been, as I'm sure you're aware of, I've been real into like kind of reading a lot of the Eastern philosophy stuff and seeing what it's all about, because you hear stuff about it and you're like, well, it sounds like kind of weird. But I swear to God, man, there's so many little jewels in terms of like, I think you call like mental models. They have like a ton of them. Mm-hmm. And one of the ones I came across while I was kind of just like reading and listening to stuff while I was flying was the idea of Preya and Shreya, which they talk about like two different little life paths. So it's like, I think they say Preya is like the path of like kind of like mindless pleasure that's like constantly beckoning you, and then Shreya is kind of the more like discerning path of like something that might not feel that great now, and but in the end it kind of like actually works out pretty well, and it's very much like the toward and away moves, which is funny because when you get into the act stuff, you're like, oh, okay, like kind of seems very, very similar to where they got that from, but I've been really using that like a lot as a mental model of like how do you use your will? Because there's your thoughts, there's your thinking mind, but then your will is a separate entity. And like the way they break this stuff down, I think is just fantastic. But like, so there's your thinking, your mind, your thoughts, but then you have a will where you can kind of will your mind to think about certain things and really disciplining your mind to like notice when your mind's drifting and stop and like focus it on something or just meditate. So like there's no point. If your mind's just drifting, stop and like start getting out of that kind of daydreamy kind of non-thinking mode. But
interesting.
The thing that I really like is, again, I'm flying, I'm in the airport, there's so many snacks, and you're like, well, I'm flying today, I get all day long. And again, same as a toward move, away move, but it was the same thing. I was like, is this the path of Preya or Shreya? And I'm like, and then you start to, and this is the coolest thing about it is like, every time you want to do something, like when your senses are pushing you to like, ooh, I'm going to eat like gummy snacks. I'm in the airport and there's nothing else here. Every time you want to do that, you get kind of like you get like you're driven towards them. Like if you want a delicious food, if you want to go do something else that like you kind of know is not the best for you in terms of what you're ultimately trying to do, it energizes you. It'll get you. Like I walked all the way to a frozen yogurt place and I was like, I'm just gonna look. That was my whole thing. I'm just gonna look. But the cool thing is once you start trying to like reshape your kind of mindless desires, you can start then kind of like taking the energy from that drive, if that makes sense. So like your mind's propelling you, like go down to get the yogurt place, go down to get the yogurt place. And the way they tell you to kind of conceptualize it, which I really like, is like you kind of feed that desire, the energy of that desire into like a fire in your mind. So it's like, well, I want to do this now. And you feel the urge to do that. And you go, nope, that's not going to get me to where I'm ultimately trying to be. And there's like when you keep, you don't have to go like crazy with it, but when you kind of deny yourself those little kind of mindless pleasures that kind of add up over time, it has like this energizing effect because it frustrates you. But if you can be really consciousness of that frustration, it can start being energizing. So yeah, I was like,
is it about redirecting that energy or?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Exactly. It's exactly that. It's redirecting it and trying to, because they have another term called samskaras, which is when you're doing, say, like, every time I go to when I go to the airport, that's a pattern. It's like, well, I'm in the airport. I'm going to have, my kettle popcorn and my fruit snacks and all of my nonsense. And you do that once, it's like, oh, it's one. But after you do that every like 5 times, 10 times, now that's like a pattern built into your brain where you're in there and you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing. And when you be able to disrupt those things, those preset patterns, I call samskaras, takes a concentrated effort of the will. And like that's where meditation comes in. You have to will. You're constantly willing your mind to focus, but your mind doesn't want to. So like you start to get that. You start to get that distinction between like your thinking mind and like the awareness that you can watch yourself thinking and direct your thoughts. And like most of us don't think about that, but it's a skill you can learn to do. And it's insane. I mean, not bragging. Someone passed me today on I'm like, I had no turn on red. I'm in my lane, and someone went around me and then made a turn on red. I don't know why that makes me so it pisses me off so bad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you're going in front of me there? And it's totally, it's just my thing. And I was able to, I felt very angry, and I looked and just went, that has nothing to do with what I'm doing. I can completely let that
it's not your game.
It's like, and I'm tired too. I'm tired and cranky. And that was the other thing. Like, even when you're on, there's no excuse. Even if you are on 4 hours of sleep, if you're mindful of what's going on and mindful of the fact that you're tired, you won't freak out, you won't spaz, you won't snap. And it's like you can control all this stuff, but you have to take a very disciplined approach to your mind. And like, it's not fun to just be like, oh, you're daydreaming, stop daydreaming, focus. What are you thinking on? What are you trying to do today? And, not in like a brutal way, because it does end up feeling good, because it's like, you kind of know what you're doing with yourself, rather than just being like vaguely upset because you were fantasizing about something that never even happened. Then you're like, fuck, I would fucking kill that guy if he did that. Now you're pissed. Like, what? So, but
no, I mean, I give you credit, because the road thing is a great canvas to practice your art of mindfulness on. I mean, because there's so much chaos going on, there's so many social rules that are broken. I completely agree with you. And then also at the same time, there's so much unknown of what's going on with the other party.
Oh yeah, dude. Watching flights. I was watching my flight get delayed hour, but I was on the flight in, and I would get a text and it'd be like, your flight's been delayed by an hour. And I'm like, oh, I can live with that. Your flight's been delayed by 2 hours. And I'm like, that's kind of annoying, whatever. Your flight's been delayed by 4. And I'm like, all right. And there's like 5. And I'm like, you know what, at this point, you can hold me till tomorrow. And, there's that saying, like, if you expect to be hanged, you're not upset about getting shot. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, man. So I just did a ton of reading. That's the thing too. It's like delayed by 5 hours. I was watching people melt down. Adults, like, I saw some younger people melting down. You're like, yeah, whatever. But I'm watching like adults like melt down over this, and I get it. It's intensely frustrating. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like I had a million things I could have spazzed about, but I was like, well, when am I going to get 5 hours to sit and read? So I just sat and just read a book and kind of enjoyed myself.
Yeah, no, I agree. If the answer to the question of like, well, what can I do? If the answer is nothing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
right. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Then the answer should not be, well, nothing, so I'm going to throw a fit like a toddler in public. Right. Like that's the subsequent answer. So as you know, my mom works for the airport. She is a ticket agent at the gate, where she has to deliver the news that, hey, sorry, the flight is delayed. I could tell you 100 different stories about how people act like toddlers. But for example, this lady came up and slapped her. Yeah. Like literally physically slapped my mother in the face. And then she got arrested, obviously. Yeah. But it's like, that was your answer to a human telling you can't get on the plane because the plane's not there. Right? Like, it's not there. Right. So, like, what are, like, so my answer is I'm going to go and physically harm this woman who just gave the message that the plane's not there, because somehow that will improve the situation. And instead of saying, no, if I do this, it's going to severely hinder the situation, probably for the rest of my life, because now I have, assault on my record. Yeah. As a mother who has by the way, this woman had a child with her. Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's It's infantile. And there's like, the problem is, and this is kind of the rough pill to swallow, unless you make it unless someone is very good at teaching you how to kind of like get over your infantile ways, which, you know, that's, I would say for the most of us, that's not the case. You know, people can help us get by, but like, unless you're doing like a dedicated disciplinary practice on your mind and how you use it, like we're all getting caught up in like, if we're not that, I mean, that's an extreme example, but there's still someone even going up and being like, it's like, don't do that, you know, and it's like, you know, like try not to do that, you know, see how pleasant a thing can be when you're not just like, what? Because at the same time too, people like, I was watching these like the group of 320-year-olds being like, they can't do this, and they're all fucked up about it. And it's like, hey man, guess what? You're not that important to the bottom line of this airline. Like they can do this, and they did, and you're going to fly on another flight. Get over it. Like that's what it is.
It actually already happened. So like, whether or not they can't do this, it's done.
Nobody at Frontiers being like, well, what about those 320-year-olds? Are you sure we can fucking? It's like, you're done, dude. You're done. You're fried. And the one guy's like, oh, I have medicine I need to take, and it's like, should have that with you then, bro. And it's I could tell it was bullshit. I was looking at them. They were like sitting there being like, they met up with another couple who was disgruntled, and they joined forces like 5 feet away from the airline people, and were just kind of like, man, like just being like, this, they fucking, you know, like so they could hear them. It was embarrassing, man. And again, I've been there before, and I've done all this shit, and I'm just kind of like, I'm like, dude, this is crazy, and it's just, this is just not the way to be. It is just not the way to be, and it was fun to just kind of like, just as a mental exercise, you know, I'm tired, I'm like, fuck, but it was funny going up and getting the news and just kind of like seeing if there's any other flights and just being really nice to the ladies. And or a thing too is nice to just be like, look, I know you're not the one who canceled this, be like, or if you were, be like, maybe you were, and if you were you, did you cancel this yourself? And they just laugh like, no, I can assure you I didn't. And it's like, there's no need to like just terrorize a human being because, you know, you're not getting your way.
Oh no! I mean, like I told you, I saw it with my mom. Oftentimes, the message. I mean, they're just the messengers. They're not the one canceling the planes. But it does bring up an interesting topic of, you said earlier, focusing your energy. So I just had a conversation recently with someone who will go unnamed, where the energy was focused on a meal at a subpar restaurant, and the amount of conversation and nitpick with the waiter or waitress because the food wasn't good. Well, it's like, number one, stop majoring on minor things. This should not be, number one, you made the decision to go to a subpar restaurant. Yelp can easily confirm this. So you're not going to change that part of the system. And then secondly, why is so much energy spent? And then the conversations after the meal with your surrounding parties. Oh, I can't believe this meal was like that. Like, for 30 minutes after. And I can understand, and I've, like Matt, like you're saying, like I've fallen victim to, like I've given into that urge as well. But what if we instead just said all of those things, which is 95% of worries and anger producing situations? What if you just said, is that my game? Yes or no? Do I want to win that game? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then spend zero time on it. Focus all of your energy and will on the games that you want to win. And what you're saying, what was that? What were those two words?
Oh, the pray and Shreya. It's like, is this ultimately is this a good road to be going down? You know? And it's like, no, it's probably not the best to spaz on airline people and just be like, fuck. It's like, you know, it's like, that, and it's not good for you to like just be operating like that. Like it's physically bad for you. Did it like you? Being angry, being stressed is bad for you. It's a part of life. I'm not saying like, you know, don't worry about like, oh shit, I'm stressed, I'm gonna die. It's like, no, you're gonna be stressed, but like you can cut down on the amount of stress by like, I would say 60%, if not more. To be honest, if not honestly like 80. But yeah, it was just like, yeah, I'm stuck here. I'm gonna read a book.
Yeah, I think you can tell a lot about someone's disposition in that way if you just drive in the car with them. You let them drive you. It's so funny because I'll go back to Philadelphia and I'll hop in the car with one of my friends or something, and it's like it's chaos. It is pure chaos. It's honking and beeping and fuck you, like would you, and then fuck you back, like finger, like, you know. And it's just like, I get it, and yeah, you might be right, but it's that whole saying, would you rather be right or would you rather be rich? You know, if you're going to go out and try to right every single what you perceive to be wrongs in the world, you're gonna blow all of your emotional and physical energy, and you're not going to have the ability to get rich in the areas that you want to get rich in, because you've exhausted your resources before you get into the office, you know, or you've exhausted your resources before you get back to the wife that you want to build the life with, you know, like that sort of thing. Like, where are we spending our energy?
Dude, I mean, this is I'm going to sound very old and very much like a dad right now. Like, this is what speed limits are for. Like, people get subjective about driving. Like, they're driving too slow. They're driving too fast. It's like, just drive the speed limit and just do your thing. Like, anyone else who's not doing that, you just have nothing to do. Like, I get into this and I used to do this all the time, but I get into it with Brittany. She'll be like, this guy's driving too slow. Why is he? It's like, dude, I don't know if you're aware, but this whole endeavor of the highway isn't centered around your preferences. It's just a bunch of unique people trying to get to their destination safely. So just get into that. If you get into the part where I had to do this to myself, because I used to have really bad road rage, or at least, like, you know, at least bad. I considered it bad, but it's like I just get into the whole team of when I'm on the road with everyone, we're all on a team. We're all trying to get to, you know, we're all trying to get there safely. That's the objective. If someone's being unsafe, I used to get like angry and like speed up next to them and be like, bleh, and like look into their car, which just, now you have two psychos angry, like not looking at where they're going. Yeah, it's just like, oh shit, I hope that guy slows down. That's not the way to go. And, you know. Yeah, the way that I kind of look at it is, if you've ever seen, like, let's say a massive physically strong animal in the wild, like let's say like a gorilla or an ape or something like that. You know, these things are just pure specimens of strength and could crush anything at any given time. But to me, it seems like they'll let 99% of the shit go until something goes too far. And then it's just like whack, you know, or like I'll rip your limbs off or something like that, you know? Yeah. So if for me, as you're talking, it helps me think of that kind of analogy. It's like, let all the flies, you know, fly around you or whatever. They're not, but until something crosses a boundary that either questions, you know, your morality or questions your physical safety or your family's physical safety, then you have all that stored up energy to solve the problem. But everything else is just going to be a waste of time. Yeah, I mean, that's why people get exhausted. That's why, like, I can attest to this. Like, you, especially like working in an office, I'd always be like, why am I so exhausted? I didn't even do anything all day, but mentally I'm like, fuck that guy, fuck this shit, fuck, I hate that. And I'm just like burning myself out mentally, just being like, fuck, hate that person, oh fuck, you know. And it's like, dude, I'm telling you, and I think, and as I was thinking about this for a long time, I'm just like, if I were to think of a way to help people deal with their anger, like, you know, how do you actually do that? Because I've definitely experienced anger issues myself, and it's like, you know, and I can say, you know, there's all that stuff, count to 10, breathe, blah, 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 blah. Dude, the number one thing, I swear to God, that helps is, do you know what you want? I rambled on this before. It's like, if you know what you want and what you're up to, you then can easily start sifting through the events of like, that doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. I mean, the same thing with the Eastern stuff. They talk about the permanent and the impermanent. Is this an impermanent? Am I getting hung up on something that's just going to just like drift away in 2 seconds if I let it? Am I holding a thing that's trying to pass through me in my head and be like, ugh? Or is this something that like actually matters? And it's like, as silly as this sounds, the ability to kind of just peacefully navigate your existence, or more peacefully, I should say. You would think, like, you know, especially when you get into like the areas of meaning, like, you know, what does it even matter? It's like the effects, the byproducts, say if you have a family or even if you're just interacting with strangers, like they're watching you. That's, I think, one of, I would say, all of humans' biggest thing right now is learning. Because we're all becoming, like, especially in the Western world, we're all getting educated a lot, but we don't know how to deal with ourselves. We don't know how to deal with our feelings. We don't know how to deal with each other. And the more people who learn how to, like, kind of Jedi level handle their minds and feelings, I think will have massive implications for, you know, I would say all of humankind. But it's like,
oh, without a doubt,
it's embarrassing, dude. Like, I was seeing that lady and her husband, she's like, this is ridiculous. The lady in the ticket counter was even like, and I'm not like, I don't want to talk shit on them, but it was just like a character study. I'm just watching this being like, damn, dude, I used to fucking act like this, kind of, you know, especially with like over the phone on customer service. I was a real fucking asshole.
Same.
Yeah, I was a motherfucker. But so the lady even got them on a flight and was like, but you guys can't sit next to each other. And she was like, unacceptable. And the lady in front of me even was like, you guys could probably get someone to switch seats with you. And she was like, no, come on. He was like, I mean, yeah, we should probably. She's like, come on, we're leaving. I'm going to have my friends pick us up. And it was like, first of all, that was like, it's like, you can wait a whole day, I guess. Yeah, because you guys need to sit next to each other. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. What was I thinking of? Damn, what was it? I just lost it. But no, I mean, bottom line. Yeah, you can either be. You ever see that movie Black Panther, where he puts on that like kinetic energy suit, and when like, somebody hits him, like you can either be the guy that like hits back, or you can absorb that negative energy and then put it into something positive in the future. I think there's several types of people in the world. Like some people who just like reflect the energies off them, so it becomes this like this feedback loop where okay, I yell at you, you yell at me, I yell at you, boom, 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 boom. Or you're saying, okay, now I will say, and this is I always come back to this. This is why I really believe people, it should be their moral obligation to become as educated and as rational as possible. Yeah. Because when you become rational and you know how to navigate things in the abstract world, it allows you to also not be a pushover. Because if you take this conversation too far, it's like, okay, well, anything any other human does, I'm just going to say, okay, like that's fine. Versus when you become highly rational, you can start to define things in terms of, okay, does this work? Where does this path go? And am I taking this too far, or am I not taking it far enough? So, okay, if you do this to me, well, I'm going to have to correct you here because there's a significant probability that if you do this to me today, you're going to do it tomorrow, and I'm just going to stop that right now. Yeah. But you can speak that out rationally rather than saying, no, like it's not, So I think combining this calm, demeanor with a strong sense of rationality, values-based rationality, is a very, very strong combo to have as a human being.
Yeah, and it's infinitely easier to do when you know exactly what you're up to and why. Because when something conflicts with that, you can just be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, what? Yep. It's like, that's because people will convince you that the thing they want you to do is very important, and you can just be like, no, it's not.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, my girlfriend and I are finally starting to get into an operating rhythm where she'll ask me to do something, and then I say no. Like, I'm not going to do that. And then she, for a long time, that was not a good scenario for us to go through. Because you say, well, why? It's like, well, because this doesn't align with ultimately what I want to do, or that makes me uncomfortable. I'm not doing that. Yeah. Like, I refuse to be the husband that is told to take something back to the store that's like we purchased 6 months ago. I will not be that husband.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, there is 0% chance that I will be that guy who's like asked to go and do these like incredibly socially awkward, socially violating, breaking all of these social rules just because I'm gaming the system. I will not be that.
Yeah. Or so what's helped me with that is going like, if I get a request like that, I go, oh, what do you got? Do you have to do so? Like, why can't you do it? I'll just be like, what do you got to do? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, are you too busy to do this or something? Like, well, I just figured I could do it. Or she goes, I need you to do something for me. Every time, I need you to do something for me. I go, what would you like me to do? Rather than be like, yeah, what is it? It's like, what do you want me to do? And then I hear, okay, are you yes or no? But yeah, that's a whole other subject too, man. Of like, it was a thing I watched as well. I watched a lady. This is the funniest thing. I'm on the plane. I'm finally get on. Everyone's kind of like, everyone's a little grumpy. And we're loading up the baggage area starts to get kind of scarce. And like, people are like scrambling to put stuff up there. A lady and her husband walk on, I think, and their kid, probably in their 40s. And the guy, so like people are just trying to find where they can put their luggage. The guy goes to scout something in the back. The lady sees something, so she stops and she just looks around. The whole plane just goes, I guess I'll put my own bag up there. And then another lady goes, oh, do you need help? And she goes, no. Like, I can get it, but, like points at her husband, like, what a dick. And then she lifts her bag up. No problem. This lady was, pretty stout, pops it right up. And then
pretty stout.
She was pretty stout. She was like, boom, popped it right up there. And then he comes back and he's like, oh, you found a place? And she was like, you want me to put your bag up? He's like, oh yeah, thanks. And she was like, again, looks around the plane, like, this fucking asshole. And it's like, you're clearly capable of doing it. Just do it. Yeah. Like, what is this? And if I for a second were to be like, yeah, you're a lady, you can't do that. Watch out. She would be like, what? Don't fucking say that. Yep. It's like, dude, it was so fun. It was so funny too. I mean, it was funny for her to do that, but it's like, and that's a whole other subject. But it's like, just fucking put it up there. You're fine. You're capable. Like, what is it? Is that tied into your sense of self-worth? That like, oh, I got goons for that. It's like, it's just that's a pet peeve of mine. No one on the plane. If I had been like, whoa, you're a girl, you can't do that. Everyone would have been like, what the fuck? But that's on me for complaining about that.
No, I get it. I get it. That's a whole nother topic of, of playing the fine line of being a gentleman and then not, and being a male chauvinist. I mean, and depending on the day and the woman, it's just a flip of the coin,
Yeah, it's true. But I agree with you, man. There's something to be said for being like, in relationships, there's a lot of times it's like they just look at dudes like butlers, where they're just like, and dudes I guess do this. So there's dudes that do this to women too, who are just like, get me my shit. But yeah, that's why and I think you said this, Wes, of like, especially in relationships, defining clear tasks and roles of like I know I do the trash, and she packs, she does she packs when we leave for the most part. She'll like get everything, all the clothes ready, and like, it's not, I'm like, you need to do that or this. It's just, I do the trash better, you're better at packing, and the more things you have like that figured out.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's economics.
Yeah. But that does help. But dude,
yeah,
what else is
completely agree.
What else is cracking, dude? That was just my little rant about, dude, again, the mental discipline, the mindfulness is one thing. The next level is really disciplining your thoughts around kind of filtering every thought, like the type of thought you're having. Is it a daydream? Is it even real? Like, can you verify the thing you're thinking? Can you verify it on good authority of your own experience or someone else's? Like the right or wrong thinking. Is this a fleeting thing? Is this something that's going to be around for a while? Is it tied into your deepest desire or not? Do you know your deepest desires or not? And like just really starting to, and again, it's not going to happen overnight, but you really start building this system, this mental system out. And it's like, I think there's a quote saying like, the untrained mind is man's worst enemy and the trained mind is man's greatest friend. So.
I love that. I'm gonna have to write that one down. Yeah. Yes, a lot of some of the stuff that you're saying, it reminds me of the book that I'm reading right now. It's called, I'll tell everybody, it's on cognitive behavioral therapy, and I wish therapy didn't have such a negative connotation to a lot of people. This stuff just teaches you how to think, but it's cognitive behavioral therapy made simple. 10 simple strategies. It's phenomenal. So I'm probably like a quarter of the way through, maybe even close to 40% of the way through. And it's just from like a lot of stuff that you're saying is just spot on. You highlighted one of the mental error areas, which is, okay, would a rationally minded person or people agree with me about this thought? Which is like a good litmus test for like, are you exaggerating claims? Like, are you future telling? Are you catastrophizing? All of these types of things. Yep. Man, like there's so many mental models in this book and just in cognitive behavioral therapy in general. It's phenomenal. And then the founder, my last note that I wrote yesterday, the founder said something great, who the founder's name is Aaron T. Beck, I believe. And he said, you should be seeking experiences of pleasure and mastery. And what I would say there is I would add to it, you should be seeking experiences of positive pleasure and mastery, like something along those lines to put that little tweak. And Ray saying cognitive distortions, absolutely. Are you distorting reality? Or how much are you skewing the actual real world to fit your own emotional needs? I think a lot of people need to hear that message, including me at times. Like, we all go in and out of this.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, that is the main thing. And I'm currently working on the mindfulness for psychonaut now, but that's just that little mental model of like, you have your senses that are the way they break it down in the book I'm reading, is you think of yourself, like your body, your mind, as like a horse-drawn chariot. Your body's the chariot, your senses are the horses kind of pulling you in all different directions with your desires attached to them. There's the driver, which is like your rational thinking mind, and then there's the you sitting behind the driver, and at any point you can be like, hey, actually go this way, go that way. But if you don't kind of get in, it's kind of hard to explain, but if you're not in touch with like your observing, innately calm part of yourself that's just watching everything and acting out of that, you're either just letting the horses run amok, or the driver's just fucking like going crazy. But at any time you can tap into that kind of like you were saying, that kind of like self-mastery of like, no, I'm not going to do that. And like, it just, that's where the will comes in. And it's like, it takes like a million repetitions of being like, no, actually I'm doing this. No. And you start to really just remake grooves in your brain. Like literally it'll change your neurology.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Number one, you're always really good at articulating things visually, and you come up with a lot of good
that was from a book I just read. That book I read was like, you can even think of it as, they have another one as the city, like these, like you can imagine your whole self as a city. And there's like, you know, the walls are like your body, your skin, and there's like 5 gates, or no, I think there's like 11 gates, but it's like your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth. These are all things for like things that kind of attract you. You know, obviously there's your penis, and you know, I guess your butthole is one of the gates too, but the idea is like we're getting constantly bombarded with signals, kind of like, you know, bringing us toward like pleasures, all that stuff all day. And there's nothing innately wrong with them, but if we're kind of negating our kind of deeper life purpose for just kind of like, you know, momentary little like, oh, that'll be good. Oh, bacon cheeseburger. Oh, that tastes so good. And it's like, and now we're like, you know, it's summertime. We're like, fuck, dude, that guy's fucking gay, running with his, you know, because it's like we're pissed off because we made bad decisions and blah blah blah. But like the idea is within that walled city with all the little, you know, there's like little gaps in the walls. There's like a little citadel, which is the command center, which again is like getting people to tap into that like innate sense of self that can actually direct themselves through situations where like their mind and body are both being like, no, we can't do this. No, we're nervous. See, we're nervous. We should stop. And there's part of you that's like, you can go, no, we're going to continue anyway. And that's like a serious power that people can start to develop. Like, but I'm angry, and it's like, well, you still don't have to react on it. And like, there's a part of your mind being like, fuck her, why would she ever say this, or fuck this guy, and your body speeds up. And some people that they never tap into that third part of themselves that's like, should I really be this angry? And it's a skill.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. I'd like to throw in there, this came up this morning with the guys on the scorecard team. I was watching a video this weekend from an entrepreneur that I really respect, and he said that he believes what is highly wrong with a lot of entrepreneurs is that they spend way too much time consuming versus creating. Their ratio is off. And to parlay that into a discussion that we've just had about all this stuff, like we've got mechanisms in our brain that are supposed to be used to identify obstacles and then get a little bit of agitation about those obstacles so that we can have the emotional energy to get around them, over them, etc. But in the absence of creating something, right? Like I'm creating to achieve this thing, then you just leave yourself. You still have the hard wiring of being a little brat about obstacles, but your brain is paying attention to something that's not towards any end destination. So a couple things that I'm getting from this conversation are, number one, you know, put yourself on a path of creating value, just constantly creating value for yourself and for others. Like have this creation mentality and ask yourself, am I consuming or am I creating right now? And now you should have both in your life, definitely. But if that ratio is not like 80-20 or 90-10 in the creation world versus consumption world, you're probably experiencing a lot of lack of rewards, if that makes sense. And you're just consuming mediocre, you know, consumption type of things. I think that can fix a lot of the stuff that you and I are talking about right now. Like focus on creating value, focus on creating for yourself and for others, and then use all of your energy towards that stuff. And then the rewards ultimately that you can consume are going to be 10 times greater than all of these other little mediocre rewards that you and I have talked about in the past.
Yeah, man. No, I think you're right. And it's like, again, the trick is, and it's up to the individual, is like, what am I going to make? It's like anything, dude. It can literally be anything. It could be
a sentence in a journal.
Exactly. I'm saying, dude, it's like just journal, anything, man. Like, again, the daily meditation practice, and the more I get into like the theory behind it and all those mental models of like being able to dude, it's the craziest thing, being able to navigate like super stressful situations from a place within myself where I'm observing myself react to all of it. And again, it's not perfect, but it's like, dude, I've got like so much better in those situations that I get usually kind of antsy and weird that I'd be like, I guess I'm just antsy and weird in these situations. And it's like, dude, and it's even like, it's not perfect. Like I still will like leave and be like, man, I was kind of a fucking weirdo. But it's like I was aware of it. I wasn't making up excuses. I was just noticing it. And then like, dude, if you can get like 2% better just once over time, you'll be surprised how much you can change your entire personality. Not like, you know, you don't have to become like a whole different person, but it's like you can really be like, again, I'm just not good in social situations. Okay, you might just be uncomfortable in them. That doesn't mean you can't navigate them in a way, you know, where you feel fine about it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. The idea of creating, it doesn't have to be that you're creating this, you know, this masterpiece of art. It could be that you are creating muscle at the gym rather than consuming a cheeseburger. It could be that you're creating the positive little social environment at Thanksgiving rather than just passively consuming it at Thanksgiving. Like all of those little things, all of that's creation. Just having a productive, proactive life rather than just absorbing everything around you. Like what was that episode in The Simpsons where Homer was like, I'm just not going to do anything. So he started driving around in a wheelchair. He started wearing a muumuu because he's like, I'm not going to put on pants. And then eventually he learned about a respirator, and because eventually he got so fat and unhealthy they had to be put on a respirator. Doctor puts on a respirator. He's like, what? He's like, I've been breathing all my life on my own like a sucker. Like that's So yeah, I think Matt, everything that you're saying is being proactive and putting yourself in the driver's seat of life rather than just being a passive participant in the passenger side.
Yeah, man. And I'm telling you, it all hinges upon you're here and you can just kind of give all of your authority of like what you want to do with yourself. You can give it away. You can say, well, I'll just give it all this company. If you're happy with that, that's fine. Like they're going to promote me. I just have to be, do my thing. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's if you are frustrated in that, it's like, well, then why are you frustrated? Which, I would be. That's kind of how I am. But it's like, if you're not, awesome, do your thing. You could probably, I'm just working here because I want to do X, Y, and Z. That's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when you're just not feeling good. It's like, well, what would you rather do? That's the problem with me. I'd get like grumpy about something and be like, and I'd just be like, this sucks. And it's like, okay, well, what sucks about it? It's fucking dumb. It's like, we'll do something else. I can't. It's like, yeah, you can. Like, dude. Yeah. It just I feel like we should try to like every now and again just find like just things to compare it to, like horrible periods of history to compare it to, and like the shit we get scared of. We should all be embarrassed. Like we should all be deeply ashamed and embarrassed of the things that like get us redlined. Dude, I'm reading a book right now about primitive mythology and like all of these ancient hunter-gatherer cultures in like 4500 BC. And like, dude, there was whole communities, birth and death. You never knew anything else than these people who, like, this is just one group of them. There's a million different things. But the one group of people, well, I'll give two examples because two of them are equally horrifying. Well, I don't know. Maybe one's even worse. It's so fucked up. It's hard to even delineate which worse. There's a group of people who, like, when you reach puberty, it's a whole bunch of stuff, but long and short of it is you like kind of go away for a week. You don't eat for like a week. You drink your uncle's blood, which they're cutting their penis open for you to drink. And then they circumcise you, and then they take your penis, it's called a subincision, and they slice it. They do like a 4-inch gap, so everyone has a scar on the bottom of the dung. And then while they're doing that to reintroduce you back to the women as like now you're a viable man, one of the older dudes steps up and slices his all the way down to the bottom. That was life, and if you didn't do that shit, they would kick you the fuck out. So like, imagine being ready for that. So then there's another group of people. These were like cannibal hunters.
I'd be hiding my armpit hair until like forever. Dude, I had not reached puberty yet. No way. This
is the shit people were dealing with, man. It's terrifying. And then a lot of times too. That by the way, this is in Australia, so it was like it would get up to like 140 degrees during the day, and a lot of the initiates would just die of heat stroke, and they'd be like, someone must have cursed that kid. Anyway, who's next? Like, it's fucked up. But
see, rationality. This is why I believe it's moral. You're morally obligated to become rational.
No, I think you're 100% right, Wes. Because then this is kind of, it's funny because those forces did eventually kind of penetrate, and there's a whole bunch of stuff around that. But the book's called Masks of God, Primitive Mythology. It's a 4-part series. It goes through the mythology of like primitive people, and then it goes into like Asian and Eastern mythology, then European mythology, and then it has like a fourth book. The second scenario, the second scenario is fucking horrible. But so the second scenario is this.
Ray would ask that question.
So you're in a group of people, you guys are like, now this is a little bit further along. This is like, still probably, that was like, that was actually kind of relative. That was a group that was doing that up until pretty recently. But the other scenario were cannibals who were also farmers. So they grew plants and stuff, but would go out and, they'd eat humans every now and again. So the second option, Ray, you might be more into this. The second option.
I'm not into that first option.
The second option, okay, rites of passage, same thing. The whole group has an orgy. The whole tribe has an orgy, except for the initiates, where the young boys, they're kept to the side. They don't get to do anything. But then, at the end of it, so they have a virgin underneath like a pile of logs, really heavy timber. She's laying under it, and all the initiates go to have sex with her, obviously, and then the last guy to do it, they kick the logs out and squash them, and then they eat the couple.
What? Hold on, that's the initiate?
Yeah, there's a whole group.
He's being initiated into death.
He's a human sacrifice. He's a human sacrifice because there's like 10 people, and then whoever's last, I guess like the elders, they're like that's the one we're gonna munch. And then after the last person does it, they kick the logs out, squash them, and then they fry them up and eat them.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, so when you're crying and people are like, "This is so hard," it's like you have no idea of the nightmare. And that was like 4500 BC. You can still think about like, dude, Roman times were like a picnic compared to that, which were still like fucking brutal. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, I figured Ray would roll the dice on the logjam party. I mean, dude, it's like, like people really need to think. It's like human beings have somehow emerged in consciousness out of the wild, and we've been like we've been just making ourselves better. It's been the thing that defines human beings from the rest of the animal kingdom, and we're far from done whatever this process is. So it's like, you can find like real depth and significance in like self-mastery and all of this stuff, because it's like, dude, like, we still have people freaking out at the airport. We still have people fucking spazzing in their car. I'm still like 70% recovered from that. So it's like, people always like, oh, is that self-improvement stuff? It's like, well, dude, if someone didn't go down and say, hey, you don't have to strangle your king every 7 years or murder kids or bury people alive and like plant them up as bones or whatever. Mm-hmm. If someone didn't say, hey, actually, if you really think about this, that's totally fucking unnecessary. And they were like, what? Which the Greeks ended up going down and doing, actually. So it's like, yeah, man, like, dude, self-mastery rules. Like, you really need to be, if you're not thinking about this shit, then what they say is you're mindlessly following the path of pleasure, which will lead to like serious frustration and gloom.
Yep. 100%, man. No, I agree. Well, that was, dude, in your semi dream state, you're very profound.
It's
4 hours of sleep, man. Yeah. Great job, dude.
Thank you, brother. But yeah, I didn't want to. I tried to tell them. I was reading these books yesterday, being like, "Why do I complain about anything? I'm not getting squashed by." There was kings who were going. They knew the moment they were the king, like in 7 years, you're getting strangled to death, and they had to just sit there and be like, "I'm gonna get strangled to death by priests."
It's gonna be a great 7 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, either way.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. So I know you got to get to Betty by. So what's up for the week?
This week, I am, again, hitting the sleep, hitting yoga. I'm going to try to do 3 yogas, and I'm going to complete the script for the mindfulness psych null, and I think that's that, actually. That's all I'm going to do.
Awesome. Cool. So for me, I'm going through a phase where everything from a business perspective was chaos, and that's good. Like, it's like going to this new, and all, like with our podcast, with Rhomas University, with my seminars, with all this stuff, just didn't know how to, it's like you just got to jump into it, figure it all out. Which, by the way, creating videos and stuff, I mean, not that all this, Matt, but for people out there who are interested, there's so many little things you have God, you have no idea about. I had no idea, right? Like, what kind of microphone do you use? What do you this microphone with this computer, or this microphone with that camera? Like, all of these little things. Then the microphone's fucking buzzing, right? Like, and that's just talking about the microphone. Then there's 100 other things. So going through, when you're getting into that next level or that new venture or the new project, there's so much, you don't know what you don't know. So you have to just say, I'm committed to the outcome, and I don't necessarily know the timeline, but I'm going to put a rough timeline out there. And then I have to be willing to be vulnerable, to be wrong, but the alternative is not doing it. Do you know what I mean? Yep. So it's like, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to figure out how to swim. So that's what I did with a lot of projects. So now finally, almost like a year later, like, I'm ready to organize that chaos. I've seen the patterns. I've seen enough where I can identify. It's like, okay, this is going to work. This isn't going to work. Like, all those types of things. So I'm now ready. So I'm looking forward to this week. And it's the same commitments. Get out the video, Rhomas University, and keep on pressing with the seminars. We just launched our next round of marketing for the seminars. We're starting to get RSVPs in. So it's like, I now, last couple months / 6 months, I felt my adrenaline pumping.
Nice.
in almost like an anxious type of way, like an not overly anxious, but a little bit more on the negative side, because you kind of have to be ready to run at any given time or any given direction. Now, finally, I'm in an area of it's like, okay, nope, I'm running in this direction. I can use this adrenaline now for that because I recognize I've now ran the course a few times. I've laid out the map, and it's like, okay, now I can get faster, I can get more efficient, and so on. So it'll be, the next few weeks will be pretty cool.
So much to be, I mean, yeah, dude, that's fantastic. There's so much to be said for that too. It sounds like such a simple thing, but like, dude, it's terrifying when you're in that, and then you kind of come out on the other end of it, and you're like, the thing that felt horrible to do actually worked out pretty well. And it's hard to determine what those things are for you because you don't want to just mercilessly beat yourself into the ground. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
Hell yeah.
So yes, I'm very, very ready to get focused on order, bringing order to the business chaos.
Hell yeah.
So cool. All right, dudes. Matt, thank you very much, brother.
Of course.
Unless you got anything else.
Nope. I'm it. That's it.
All right, man. Get to bed. Thank you, guys. See you at the end of the week.
See you guys.